TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel launches a limited ground maneuver into Lebanon. Washington stresses to Jerusalem the importance of ultimately pivoting from military operations to a diplomatic pathway as it voices support for Israel's limited offensive in Lebanon. The IDF Home Front Command issues new directives amid concerns over a possibility of an imminent Iranian attack on Israel. Jerusalem will guarantee the safe return of Israel's northern residents to their respective communities, and it will utilize all of the means at its disposal to change the security situation that after 11 months of belligerent cross-border attacks by the Iranian proxy Hezbollah from Lebanon into Israel. In a meeting with mayors of northern communities, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant further asserted that the IDF would soon enter into a new phase of fighting to realize its pledge.
The
next stage in the war against Hezbollah will begin soon. It will be a significant factor in changing the security situation and will allow us to complete the important part of the war's goals, returning the residents to their homes. This we will do. As I said here a month ago, that we will shift the center of gravity, so I say now we will change the situation and will bring the residents back home, whatever effort it requires.
It is important to note that the United States initially warned Israel that a ground maneuver into Lebanon would constitute a red line, stressing that it expects the leadership in Jerusalem to accept a proposed ceasefire arrangement that was jointly relayed by Washington and Paris.
Israel may be now launching a limited operation into Lebanon. Are you aware of that? Are you comfortable with their plan?
I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now. Thank you.
While senior Israeli officials initially told TV7 that Jerusalem was willing to postpone its ground maneuver into Lebanon, the Iranian proxy Hezbollah blatantly rejected American-French mediation efforts to accommodate a temporary cessation of hostilities. This was made apparent during a visit of French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot during his visit to Beirut yesterday.
I came to pursue the diplomatic efforts initiated a year ago and which were accelerated a few days ago in New York with the ceasefire proposal put on the table by the President Emmanuel Macron and President Joe Biden, which I urge the parties to seize from this moment. There is still hope, but there is little time left. I therefore urge Israel to refrain from any land incursions and to cease fire. I call on Hezbollah to do the same and to refrain from any action that could lead to regional destabilization. I said earlier, Hezbollah bears a heavy responsibility in the current situation, given its choice to enter into the conflict on October 8th of last year and to drag Lebanon into it, which we have always regretted. What they must now do, in their interest, in the interest of Lebanon, and the interest of the region, is to cease fire.
Following the French top diplomats' meetings in Beirut, the Biden administration seemingly altered its tone toward a limited Israeli ground offensive, with the apparent hope that military pressure on the Hezbollah terror group would force it, as well as its masters in Tehran, to reconsider a diplomatic path forward.
We, of course, continue to support a ceasefire, but I think sometimes people either misinterpret or have their own version of what a ceasefire is. A ceasefire is not one side in a conflict unilaterally putting down its arms and stopping the conflict. It is an agreement for both sides to stop the conflict. And in this case, what we have proposed is a 21-day ceasefire where both sides would stop attacking the other and we would reach a diplomatic resolution. And we are going to continue to engage with our Israeli counterparts, with Lebanese counterparts, and with other countries around the world to reach that objective. But at the same time, there are a couple other things that are true as well, which is that number one, military pressure can at times enable diplomacy. Of course, military pressure can also lead to miscalculation. It can lead to unintended consequences, and we're in conversations with Israel about all of these factors now.
Meanwhile, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant met with IDF troops along the Lebanese front, during the course of which he reiterated the goal of a looming ground maneuver into Lebanon.
Our goal is to ensure the safe return of Israel's northern communities to their homes. We are prepared to make every effort necessary to accomplish this mission. This is your mission. This is the mission of the IDF. This is what we aim to do, and we will use all the means that may be required, your forces, other forces, from the air, from the sea, and on land.
Subsequently overnight, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin called his Israeli counterpart Yoav Gallant, during the course of which General Austin informed General Gallant of Washington's agreement on the necessity of dismantling infrastructure along the border to ensure that Lebanese Hezbollah cannot conduct October 7-style attacks on Israel's northern communities. However, per a Pentagon readout of their conversation, Secretary Austin stressed to Minister Gallant the importance of ultimately pivoting from military operation to a diplomatic pathway to provide security and stability as soon as feasible. Immediately following their phone conversation, Jerusalem's top defense official instructed the IDF to prepare for a ground maneuver.
I'll say that we have the great privilege of writing history, just like we did in Gaza, to do so here too in the north, which we began with lower signature operations, and today we are going to enter into a more meaningful maneuver and to return the residents of the north to their homes with security. This is a substantive issue because we haven't maneuvered in Lebanon since 2006. I'm telling you that this is significant.
Subsequently overnight, the IDF received the order to launch a limited ground maneuver into Lebanon, focused on eradicating Hezbollah's terror infrastructure along the border.
The Israel Defense Forces is conducting limited and targeted raids along Israel's northern border against the threat Hezbollah poses to civilians in northern Israel. These localized ground raids will target Hezbollah strongholds that threaten Israeli towns, kibbutzim, and communities along our border. Hezbollah turned Lebanese villages next to Israeli villages into military bases, all ready for an attack on Israel. Hezbollah had prepared to use those villages as staging grounds for an October 7-style invasion into Israeli homes.
Admiral Hagari went on to stress to the Lebanese people that Israel's war is not with them, rather, solely with the Iranian proxy Hezbollah.
Our war is with Hezbollah, not with the people of Lebanon. We do not want to harm Lebanese civilians, and we're taking measures to prevent that. We will not let 7th of October happen again on any one of our borders. We will continue doing whatever necessary so that Israeli families can return to their homes in safety and security.
It is worth noting that the majority of Lebanese do not support Hezbollah. Nevertheless, the largest sector of the Shiite Muslim community, that is believed to comprise roughly 33% of Lebanon's population, regard themselves as blind followers of the recently eliminated Hassan Nasrallah. And while they acknowledge that Hezbollah's actions led them to their misery, rather than blaming Iran, they evidently blame the Arab Sunni world for not joining them in their suicidal fight against Israel.
The situation in Lebanon is difficult. All areas are now threatened. But we have great faith in Allah, in this movement, and in the Palestinian cause. Our faith in the Palestinian cause is great. We could have ignored the Palestinian cause from the beginning. We would have been safe, but we are all with him until our deaths. For the Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, we are with him. What is next? You Arab leaders are watching as they take over all the Arab countries and take us all. This indifference is shameful for the Lebanese and Palestinian people. This indifference is shameful.
Meanwhile, earlier today, a Palestinian terror group launched a number of projectiles towards central Israel. And while the majority of projectiles were successfully intercepted, at least one landed in an urban area of Hod HaSharon, while another two exploded on an adjacent highway.
A few minutes ago, sirens sounded in the area of Glilit Precinct. Officers identified a number of dangerous objects that landed in the sector of Ramat HaSharon. I ask of the general public to listen to the Home Front Command's directives and avoid coming to the area. I reiterate to the public, time and again, whenever a siren sounds, you must enter into protected areas. The objects luckily fell between two buildings next to a public park. If citizens would have been present near those objects, a terrible disaster could have happened.
While no injuries were reported within the city of Hod HaSharon, two men, including one in his 50s and another in his 30s, sustained separate degrees of injuries from shrapnel. They were transferred to the Rabin Medical Center for further treatment. Meanwhile, the IDF Home Front Command announced a change to its directives, as part of which it instructed residents of Jerusalem, central Israel, and a number of regional communities to limit their movements in light of an assessment that Iran may be preparing to launch an attack toward Israel. The assessment, which is done jointly with the United States, comes amid growing voices in Tehran itching for an attack.
It is natural that the Islamic Republic of Iran will not let any of the criminal acts of the Zionist regime towards the interests of the Islamic Republic go unanswered, and the Zionist regime will not go unpunished. For the crimes it has committed against the people of Iran, the resistance front, the citizens and militants of Iran.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. Separately, if you're blessed by our productions, which are exclusively donation-based, please consider supporting our programs with a donation. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Mevorach v'Shana Tova v'Shketa, and God willing, we will see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.